author and executive director of the 204A Project and the Berkeley Law School. He also teaches international human rights in the Berkeley Legal Studies program. Currently, Attorney Moore is the co-director for the International Convention on Human Rights Research Project, the project house at the University of California, Berkeley School of Law. The title of today's talk is The Case for an Enforceable International Bill of Rights. Let's welcome Professor Chingling.
Well, good evening, everyone. I think it's close enough to say evening or late afternoon. Forgive me, because when I teach or even when I'm in the courtroom, I like to kind of walk around a lot. So I'll probably do that here too, especially since I have that ability to do so. I appreciate that introduction. I just want to tell you a little bit more about myself so that you get a sense for what I'm working on, but also where I come from in this whole human rights process. And I'm really glad that we saw these clips to begin with, so I'm going to talk about them to give you a better sense. But for me, as she talked about, my background is both practice and academic. So I'm trained as a trial lawyer. And I came through the California public schools all the way from high school through college and law school. And then I was with a big firm, and after that I had my own firm, and I've been trained and I've worked on civil rights cases for 30 years. Okay? And I've argued at every level of court, including the United States Supreme Court. Okay? And the reason I'm telling you that is because I want you to understand where I come from in this human rights process. Is I want enforcement. I want there to be rights that aren't just things that we talk about, aspirations that we have, statements that we make, but I want there to actually be enforcement of rights. I want rights to just be platitudes, right? And so what I've done in order to do that is I've represented lots of people, I've done lots of cases, I still continue to do civil rights cases. I appear in state and federal courts, and I also work with a nonprofit. And now she didn't mention, because this is relatively new, but we've been rebranded, and the reason for that was because when we were the 2048 Project, does anyone, first actually, I want to start with a question if I can, because whenever I teach, and I teach international human rights and civil rights, constitutional law, I always ask this question out of curiosity as much as anything. It's a good starting point. How many of you were taught about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights when you were in high school? If you were, raise your hand. So that's like 6. Do you know that when that, because you saw the Universal Declaration of Human Rights up here in that first clip, right? When that document was passed, it was passed unanimously in 1948. And at that time, one of the foremost agreements, and the United States was a big leader in this, Eleanor Roosevelt, she was the chair of the commission. That's why they show her up here, and I'll show this later on our website, but that's why they show her holding the document. She was the head of the commission that actually prepared the Universal Declaration, and our country had a very strong foundation in all of that, right? But in it, right there in the preamble, it says, it's a promise to everyone, by all the countries that signed it, that it will be taught in all of the schools of each country. And yet every time I teach, and I don't care whether it's in the UC or the state schools or in the private universities, it's about the same. It's 6 to maybe 10 people that have actually ever been taught the Universal Declaration. So that's really my starting point, is to give you some grounding about the way that I see rights and the importance of enforcing them, but also to give you a sense of how they've been neglected. Because when you remember that first, I thought there was a great question in that first clip that we saw. One, I thought that it was really great the way that it went back, all the way back to Cyrus, right? And in this booklet, so I started to tell you about how we were rebranded. We were rebranded as Unite for Rights. And the reason for that was because we were 2048, which was the 100th anniversary of the Universal Declaration, which is nice thinking, but it didn't have enough of an appeal to people. And we really are trying to unite people, and so we had some big meetings, and we had some digital marketing people in San Francisco that did pro bono work, and they brought in a namer, and they said, look, you need to switch from numbers to a new, something identifies what you're doing. So now we have Unite for Rights, and this is the Global Bill of Rights that we're working on, which I'll talk to you more about. But to get back to the Universal Declaration, because I really do think that that's a good starting point, and I think that this video that you saw was a good starting point. In our document here, we have Cyrus, and we have the French Declaration of Rights of Man. We have our own Bill of Rights. And you get a sense of this evolution of documents, right? And I think you get a sense of it in the video so that you get an idea that this is a continuum, not an epiphany, right? So I'm not here to say, oh, there's some brilliant insight that I bring to you. No, that's not what I'm here to share with you. I'm here to share with you a continuum, an evolution. And so one of those great ones is our Bill of Rights. Right? So, and they flash by it, but what people don't really know that about our Bill of Rights is that, does anyone know what the original vote was in the Constitutional Convention when they voted on a Bill of Rights? What do you think the vote was? Anybody taught this? Has anyone ever been taught what happened with the Bill of Rights? I mean, here in America, right, they're going around, they parade up and down the political spectrum talking about the rights that we all have, but they ever teach you what happened when they first tried to introduce a Bill of Rights in the Constitutional Convention? Yeah. It was rejected. How? Do you remember?
I don't remember, but like I actually read a little bit on this, and I can't remember what it was, but like it was saying that like a good majority rejected the bill.
Yeah, it was unanimous. And thanks for in the introduction to our document. That's great. Thanks for doing that. But it was unanimous. They all voted against it. James Madison, who is the founder, or the father, they call him, of the Bill of Rights, and I have to admit that he did a good job writing it once he sat down to do it, but originally he voted against it. And I tell you this because you get a sense that rights are only about struggle. And there's a struggle to create them, and then there's an even harder struggle to keep them. So now you understand why I try to work on both. I work on the creation part. I'm going to talk with you all about that. But then I work on the enforcement part, which is in the court. When I stand up before a judge and I tell her, I've got someone right here who's passing out leaflets and they arrested her and I want an order right now. I want to stop this. And I get that order. That judge, she writes it up and that's it. That's, to me, the moment when you actually have rights. Okay? So you get a sense of where I'm headed with all this? How it's a continuum? And then to give you another example and kind of stay in this theme of what you've seen here in the videos, right? The next one you see Martin Luther King. And that's a beautiful, I Have a Dream speech is a wonderful speech. I'm sitting here and I'm watching it with you. I've seen it many times and I'm still moved by it. But you know what's interesting about King? What did he want for rights? He had several goals, but what do you think what were King's real, how did he think rights were going to become realized? And he was strong on this. Based on, you get a sense of where I'm coming from, because I share this with King. I'm inspired by him. What do you think King wanted? You raising your hand? Right, absolutely. You got that, right? And what else? And what else did King want? Come on. I like to talk to my classes. Yeah. Equality. He wanted equality? Absolutely. What else? Yeah. He was That's right. So he wanted these for everybody, right? Absolutely. And that's why you'd see in the marches and across, it was a broad spectrum of support because there was a broad spectrum of application. What else? Yeah. Yeah, you, in the back. Equal opportunity in every sense. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So he wanted people to actually exercise their rights, right? He didn't just want them to be talked about. He wanted them to be exercised. Yeah?
He wanted to stop segregation.
How?
He talked about how his dream was where he could see a little black girl next to holding hands. So he wanted us to come together.
That's right. That's absolutely. That was his vision. All these pieces are vision. Yeah. How? Go ahead. Unity. That absolutely. He was trying to unite people to accomplish this, right? To accomplish these rights. But how? What's that? Nonviolent protest, absolutely. You see it there, and you see it in the, look at Selma. Everybody remember that picture of the dog attacking the boy, right? There they are, they're in Montgomery. That one photo, Malcolm Gladwell's written about this, just caused the whole country to realize. It was just one of many instances, but how? What? Okay, so you've got the vision, you've got the rights. What else did King really want that I focus on? Yeah. The enforcement. How? We're getting close. Where? Standing up where? At the Capitol? Where else? Oh, okay, you said the word. Government policies and law. Martin Luther King was very keen on the law. I know a federal judge now who was with King, and he used to go into all these marches, and yes, he cared about all these vision pieces. Yes, he cared about the policies. Yes, he cared about all these things, but he wanted law. That's why we got the Civil Rights Act of 1964. He wanted law. He wanted to be able to have people stand, like people like me, maybe one day some of you, to stand in front of a judge and tell him or her, I want this now. I want the law. I want it enforced. Okay? So to me, that's the key thing. Remember that question, and I was really struck by that question. I thought that was pretty well done, Tim, the way that they go through and they have this whole description of the past, and then they go to the Universal Declaration, and then she talks about the weakness of it. But it's only words, right? And then she asks the really killer question, which is, who makes the words a reality? Right? And that's why I'm here. I'm here to talk to you about that piece. Because it's not me alone, but there are a lot of people around the world that are trying to make the words in the Universal Declaration and rights reality through the law. Okay? So that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. And I appreciate you all throwing in your thoughts, because I much prefer to have some interaction rather than just lecturing all the time. Okay? So if we can keep that going, then that'll be fine. I'm going to throw some things open. I'm going to use the website here that we have as a way to think through some more of this together, but also to give you a chance to get a sense for how you can participate, okay? Because I've done this for 3 years now. So I always bring these booklets, and these, if you look at it, it's part of this continuum, right? So if you're looking at things, I already told you about our U.S. Constitution, and then here is the Universal Declaration. Well, the next piece in this is the European Convention. And so a lot of people, this is also something that's not really taught regularly, but should be, is that there's been this movement after the Universal Declaration to create regional courts. So have any of you ever studied anything about the European Court of Human Rights? Have any of you heard of Brexit? What is Brexit? What is it?
The British exit from the EU.
Right.
Proposed referendum.
Right. And what are they exiting?
The European Union.
And I'll just point this out. This is part of what they're leaving behind. This document right here, this European Convention on Human Rights, this is the Bill of Rights for 47 countries. This Bill of Rights is the most effective protection for human rights in the world today. So if you're having a conversation, as I know you just can't wait to be in your kitchen and eating some pizza with friends, and you're going to go, oh yeah, let's talk about human rights. But if that were to ever come to pass, and you have some conversation about human rights and where the best enforcement, and someone says, oh yeah, the UN, you tell them no, because it's not. UN's great in a lot of ways. I go there every year. I just got back. I was just in Geneva 3 weeks ago, and we have a Geneva office, and the head of our Geneva office was speaking at this Human Rights Council, and you got all these governments from 47 countries, and they're all blah, 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 blah. And I believe in trying to work with these governments but when it comes to law, no. That's where this is really effective. That the law has not really been implemented through the UN, but the law is implemented through the European Convention on Human Rights. You have a beautiful courthouse in Strasbourg. It's right on the border of Germany, and you walk in there, and they have judges from 47 countries. And there'll be one lawyer, and she'll be from Romania, and she'll be waiving this European Convention and making her argument based on this. And there'll be another lawyer, and he'll be from Denmark, and he'll be waiving the same thing. You get a sense of how it works? I hope I'm giving you a sense that there's something that really afoot. So when you hear of human rights, you don't have this sense of kind of, oh yeah. I want to leave you with a sense that, yeah, through law, there actually can be ways that rights are realized. And this is a really great example of how it's happening. And one of the terrible things about Brexit, and my son is over in London right now studying. I'm going over to see him here in just a couple of weeks. And he's studying all this about Brexit. And just about the age of a lot of you. And at this time now, with Britain leaving, what's happening is that this is unraveling to some extent. So after 20 years of success with this court, and I've been going there for 15 of them, that now the Russians are starting to pull out and not abide by these decisions. The British are pulling out. And I've been there in the British Supreme Court. I've been in their law library where their judges make their decisions. And there are big stacks of all of the British law. And then right next to them, there's the big stacks of the European law. Because the beauty of this and the beauty of this whole idea is that both apply. And they have been, and they've been working well, which is why so many people really regret. You know, there's over 4 million people that have signed the regrets it now after Brexit. So you get a sense of that there's something afoot, and then this document is just the next step. It's about the strengthening and the expansion of these regional courts. And just like the European Court, even though there's it's 2 steps forward and 1 step back. You're going to see that throughout your lives, right? That's the way that things tend to go. And it goes that way socially. Sometimes it goes that way personally. But what you do is, you know, when you get that step back, you figure out how to take the next 2 forward, right? And so that's what this whole Global Bill of Rights is about. And in the past, I've given them out to everybody because they were smaller and they were less expensive. But now they're costing us $1 a piece to produce, and I have stacks of them. I have more in the bag. And if any of you afterwards want one of these, I'll be glad to give it to you. If you just come on up, I'll give it to you. And I'll be telling you more about it, too, as we go. But the last thing I want to do before moving into the actual website is to ask you to think about San Suu Kyi, right? Am I pronouncing that correctly? I always mess up on her name, but I don't mess up on what she's done because I've watched her for years, right? And like so many others, I've written letters to her when she was in house confinement. And so what I think this is important to see this clip, because what it shows is that what seems to be impossible is the fine line between the impossible and the inevitable. That's what I would suggest. And she shows how things can go. And so when you look at something like a global Bill of Rights, I'm just trying to get you to prepare yourself to be receptive to the idea, is that it may be very difficult to imagine, but that's part of why you're here. And that's part of why you're in school, is so that you can think about things the way they might be. Right? And so I'll give you another good example. Like when, in addition to visiting with my son, I've been asked to speak at the Presidential Library for Václav Havel. Anybody remember him? Who is Václav Havel? Europe, think of Europe, think of playwright, think of human rights. Václav Havel. No. You know, it's a shame. We really, I think in our teaching system, I'm all in favor of math and the rest of it, but I think that there's some just other fundamental things that I wish that we covered more. Because with him, he was now, first he was a playwright, and he was in Czechoslovakia. And I admit this is some time ago, and I go back, so I actually shouldn't make such a big deal out of it, maybe because I can remember writing letters to him too when he was in prison. And I wasn't about your age, or in law school. But Václav Havel, he was a playwright, and then he became he got arrested during when the Soviets invaded Czechoslovakia, and he was, after the Prague Spring, he was arrested and thrown into jail, and it seemed all impossible. And so then he said, look, it may seem impossible, but it's not. And so he started with others to continue to fight for rights, and he became president. I won't tell you his whole story, but he became president of Czechoslovakia. Okay? And then after that, he was a big hero, and there was the Velvet Revolution, and then he passed away, and they have a presidential library, and I've been asked to come speak at his library about the same thing I'm talking about with you tonight, which is this Global Bill of Rights. And the reason I'm telling you this is because I want to give you a sense that whether it's Aung San Suu Kyi, or it's Václav Havel, or it's, who's another great example, who they referred to today. Let's think of one more. Who's another great example from Africa of exactly what I'm talking about? Nelson Mandela, okay? So enough of this history part. Thanks. I think hopefully you get a sense that not only are human rights an evolutionary process, not only are they difficult to achieve, but it's a fine line between the impossible and the inevitable. And so I'd like to now turn and look at our website with you and have you think with me about how we can actually take these next steps, okay? How could you have a global Bill of Rights so that there would be genuine human rights for all people in all countries? How would that happen? And I wonder, has anyone had a chance to take a look at this booklet? I know there was one. Has anyone else had a chance to take a look at this on the website? Yeah. Well, So what did you think? I don't want to put you on the spot for doing that, but what did you think? Right. And that's one of the key things that you're pointing out that I think is absolutely essential. And there's another professor here, Margaret Anderson. I don't know, have any of you had classes with Margaret? In dialogue? Okay. Yeah, well, you'd give her a shout out then. I don't know if you still do, but you give her a shout out when you go to the next one. Because she's keen on dialogue, right? And this, what the point that you're making, and I'm really glad that this is what you draw out, is that this, we don't claim this as a finished document. Okay, so this is also an opportunity where you could go and you could learn about the Universal Declaration, you could learn about the history, and you could think, oh, that's all really nice. I learned about that history, but that's all history. Well, here's something that's being drafted, right? And that's why there are lots of people that are working on this together, and this is an opportunity for you, too, to think about, okay, if I was putting together a list of rights, what would I want? And there are some that are missing. In the Universal Declaration, there is no right to an environment, for example, right? And there's no court structure for it either, for example, because that's why it's not enforceable. So these are specific things that you can look at and you can think about, and you can go here on the website and take a look at it. And so this is where what I want to do, if I can here, is to try to, maybe you better help me because it's not going. No, that's okay. I'd much rather just, I'd rather talk because we have 15 more minutes and that's it? Okay. Okay, so.
You want it to be smaller?
Yeah. Okay, so let me, so if how do I move it?
Here, you put your finger, yeah, and then your
Oh, okay.
thumb here.
Yeah. So it'll be like this, right?
Yeah. Yeah, here.
Yeah.
That's
Okay,
how it should be,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. So when you go to the, I'll give you the booklets if you want them, but also you can go to the website and you can see for yourself what the booklet is like. You know, if you want to just look at it. And the one thing that you get is you get this long list, and I'm not going to go over the whole list of this evolutionary process because fortunately we've already had a chance to see some of that in the video and talk about it together. But when you look at and there's the picture of Eleanor Roosevelt, right? And this is the famous quote of hers, "The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams." And this is what she said at 2 o'clock in the morning when she was holding that up, and they said, "Yeah, well, do you ever think this will happen?" And this was her answer. So at least some of us are still out here trying to make it happen, and it is happening. Like in Africa, you have an expansion of their whole regional court system too. So I'm not going to. And then our international director was just at the ASEAN, and so you have an expansion of the ASEAN regional system. Sorry, I'm not going to be getting my phone. Oh, it's my son. No. Hey, guess what? You know where I am right now? No, I won't do that to you. But at any rate, these regional court systems are expanding. I'm not going to go through and tell you about every one of them. But I do want you to have a sense that there's progress that's being made, okay? The other thing is, when you look at the list here, so when you think about the list of rights, like what are some of the things that you all would include? Dignity. Okay, what else? If you were drafting one of these, what would you want in it? Yeah. Freedom of speech, right? Because there's in a lot of places right now, it's really interesting. I was just in Seoul, and in Korea, they're really strong on freedom of speech. And I just got done hearing about how in China, they were making these Asian values arguments that Asian people don't want free speech. And I just felt like they needed to go to Seoul because I just saw 160,000 people in a stadium gathered at a big peace movement. And so yeah, there's free speech. What else? Yeah. Anti-discrimination. What else? Yeah. Freedom of movement. Now, I'll tell you, that's really interesting. I'm not going to take the time to go through and pull this picture up, but I'll tell you about it because I was just there. I mentioned I was in Seoul. They got someone to drive me out to the border with North Korea because I really, I had been giving these presentations, and they said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "Oh, take me out to the border with North Korea." Right? So they got me a car and took me out there. And actually, I think I will show this to you because we don't have that much longer. And all I can really do is leave some lasting impressions. I've learned that from teaching. It's like a few thoughts is all. And this one may be something that I can leave that if I can figure out now. Can you get me back to the home page? Yeah, get me back to the home page. Because I think that this picture, this is something that I just wrote. So there's a blog on the website. Yeah, it's right there. And click on the blog. All right, this is a blog that I just wrote, and I think it's perfect for where we are. It's this one right here. Okay. Can everyone see this? Has anyone been here? Because you can tell I'm really big about resolve, right? So if I leave you with a sense of resolve, that you are going to resolve to fight for human rights, that's all. I'll be glad. I can't think of a better example. I just wrote this 2 nights ago, right? And this is from when I was out on the border. I get out there on the border of North Korea, and I'm thinking, I'm going to see tunnels, and I'm going to see all this barbed wire and all the rest of it. What do I see? A magnificent train station. This thing, it's huge, and it's beautiful, like so much of Seoul. Beautiful architecture. This isn't my standard presentation, but I think it gets things across. This is the interior, right? And what I love most about this whole thing is no trains come here. No trains come here. They have built this for the day when they will. How's that for determination? So you can imagine I'm sitting there, I got this, and it's just like a train station. And at some point, it just takes determination, right? You do things that need to be done. And I just found that to be really an inspiring thing. So you can see this on the blog. I'm not going to tell you more about that, but as a spontaneous moment, I think that their determination gets things across to you better than I ever could. And with that determination, if you want to do something to participate, here's what you can do is, now if I can get back to the home page. How do I get back to the home page?
My laptop's tricky, huh?
No, it's you have to pardon me, I'm actually okay with technology,
Yeah?
but
No,
not great.
Yeah.
But thank you,
Is that
thank
what
you.
you want?
Yeah, this is what I want, because here's what I want to show you, is that one of the things that you can do, did you see what it was asking when you took a look? one of the things that you can do if you want to do something very quick in this is that if you have comments that you want to make, it's like I was saying in response to her comment, you can make them. And one of the best things you can do, and I'll show you on here, you can go up on the top in the menu bar. Here it is. It says comment. So you just go there and you click on comment. And you'll see it's very easy for you to make any kind of comment. Like, I would really appreciate it. Is there anyone here who thinks that this is just never going to happen? This is just wishful thinking. I mean, come on. Anybody here that thinks that? Yeah. Good. I don't blame you. Believe me, I have my moments too. And if you have that comment to make up here, hey, this is never going to happen, then go, please, and explain it, though. Say, you know, why it won't happen. Because what we want, same for you, what we want is we want people to comment generally about the idea of this emergence of rights, but also about the specifics. So if you have some specific right that you think is missing, or that you would word differently, or something like that, then you leave the comment. And not only that, we give a reward. So if anybody makes a comment, even a grammatical one, that we end up then incorporating into the document, and we change the actual wording of the document, then we send you between $10 and $100. Okay? So if you want to earn some, you know, bucks while you're sitting around eating that pizza in the kitchen, all you do is you think, oh yeah, that guy, I've got a better idea than that, right? Or here, you see really what Eleanor Roosevelt and the others said about all this is that it's a plan, okay? And so if you click on this, you can see how this is the emergence of a plan, and it is a plan. And I hope I've laid out for you this idea, if you can see how this continuum, this extension into the regional courts and into an international court that could actually review them. And if you look at the plan, if you come up with a better plan, we'll give you $1,000. Okay? And it can be anything. It can be anything you've ever read in any course you've ever taken. If you've got a better plan, you send it and you get paid. But it's all because of, as Margaret would say, it's about dialogue. This is all about dialogue. And the other piece that I have here that I want to share, and I am going to be right on time. I am going to stop in 1 minute. Okay, just so you know, I'm going to let you go on time because I appreciate y'all being here. But what?
The class ended at 6:45.
Oh, 6:45. Well, then we're going to have a question, and then I'll let you go 15 minutes early. How's that? Okay? But what you can think of is this idea about if you go here to sign the pledge. So while we don't claim to have a perfect document, and it would be really presumptuous to think that you could, that it really is about getting all the input from all sorts of opinions and people. What you can do, what you can participate in and agree on together, and I think I can manage this part, is you go here to the home page and you see where it says sign pledge, and you click on that. And what it's asking, can someone read this? Who can read it? Who will read it? Thanks, appreciate it. What do you think of that? What about supporting an idea? Yeah. That's right. That's right. And that's why we've gone this way over the last 2 years in particular. is that there have been a lot of conferences, there have been some of the great scholars and thinkers. At the Berkeley Law School, we had brought together a lot of the great minds in this whole field of regional rights and enforcement. I was just in Geneva. We were just having a meeting with people who work in the regional rights, and so there's a lot of that part of it. But that isn't the most important. It's a small piece of energy that he just talked about that we're really after, and that's to get people to focus together. So the reason why we've gone with a pledge rather than having people try to support a document is because we want people to say that they will support the idea. Any other thoughts on it? What about it? What's the value of an idea? It can change. Based upon what? Whatever thoughts there are that come in, right? So there's a lot of flexibility, and the ideas can change. What else can they do? Especially in this day and age. They can inspire. Yeah, they can. And I hope this is one that you find somewhat inspiring. Yeah. Absolutely. Did everyone hear her? I mean, to me, this is one of the most exciting things for your generation. You actually are in a point in time where it's not easy, but it's not impossible that humanity could reach an agreement to live together. Can it? Is that just more craziness? What do you think? You are nodding. There's some room for optimism, I guess. It's one of the things. Yeah. But I think, especially now when you get so many negative images, and I'm not going to go off and get too political right now, but you're all in the midst of a presidential election, and I hope you're all about ready to go vote here shortly, right? But one of the other images, and I'm not going to go and dig this one up. Well, yeah, okay, I won't dig it up, but I'll just describe it for you because I don't seem to be adept enough with this. But there's one other image that I think that I want to show you because this is
on your website?
Yeah. Let's go. No, not the website. Just go out on here and then go to the blog. Yeah, I'm being very spontaneous here tonight, but it's just. Did you like the picture of Doris on the station? Was that worthwhile? Yes. Did that stick in your head, right? Okay, then I want to try one other one here. No, not the Milky Way. Let me keep going down, down, down. See, these are all images that you might find interesting or not. Here, let me go. I think I can manage it. Yeah. Let me see. It's down here further.
Or you can just use page down.
Oh, I can use page down? Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great. Okay, so there's all this discussion about different things, including the Warriors. I'm a Warriors fan. But what I want to show you is that. That. What is that? Anybody read this? This is good. This is worth a little bit of time, I think, right now. What is this? What is it? Can anybody read that? Somebody want to read that? Oh, come on. Somebody's got to have the eyesight to read that. Okay, thanks. Oh, Oh, he's corny too, in addition to being. But can you understand why this is pertinent at this given time? This is the opposite of a wall. Okay? This is, where this particular bridge is, this bridge goes from Strasbourg, France, right, where there's this European Court of Human Rights with these beautiful glass cylinders. I'll spare you. I won't go pull that one up. I'll just describe it. Beautiful glass cylinders, judges from 47 countries, and it's just on the other side of this bridge over in Strasbourg, okay? This side of the bridge is Germany. Do you know that the people on both sides of this bridge, one, at various times they had walls, but not only that, they killed each other to the point where they got so exhausted from destroying their homes on both sides that they finally made a pact that they were going to just kill each other physically and not destroy their buildings. Okay. And that's all part of our background too, right? And here we are now. So you understand this whole concept, and really this is central to what the Universal Declaration and all of that was about. It was about the idea that then we would have a borderless world, right? And at least within Europe, and that's what's happened. Any thoughts on this? Is it possible? Is it possible we could have bridges that go across the rivers into Mexico and we just walk back and forth? It's possible. Right? It would take some planning and it would take some strategy. There's an Inter-American Court on Human Rights. It's a lot like the European Court on Human Rights. And so you have all these countries from all the South America, Central America, and North America. And we refuse to participate. Okay? So there's a path. It's not an easy one, but it's possible. Yeah. Okay, so I'd like to answer some questions. And I'll warn you, if you don't start asking me a few questions, then I'll start asking more on my own. Just be glad I don't have a seating chart today. Because when I teach, that's how painful it is. I have everyone come in and sit down on a seating chart. And then throughout the entire semester, I call on people. And that sounds atrocious, doesn't it? Yeah, that's atrocious. But in my evaluations over the years, I've had people say more complimentary than negative things about all that. Because I don't beat up on. So if you have anything to say, you can see I'm not going to beat up on you. Yeah?
The concept of like human rights laws, who do you think would be obligated to enforce it with situations like ISIS, Syria, who would be that overseeing source?
Okay, did everyone hear his question? But what he's saying is, oh, it's great to have law, but then how would you enforce these? Like, how would you enforce these decisions, right?
Yeah, who would enforce the law
Yeah.
where you are? Because
Yeah.
it could be a situation that's happening here in the United States, but
Yeah.
somebody here is addressing it.
Yeah.
Is somebody going to come over from the UN?
Yeah.
Is the UN going to go into the parts of Africa, like Syria or Iraq or anywhere else? I mean, who do you think would be most, and not like just picking one, but like realistically, who like overseeing forces to enforce those laws?
Yeah. It's a great question about, okay, who's going to enforce this, right? Do you send in the UN or whatever if these court decisions? And let's use the European Court example, okay? Right across the bridge here. If there's a country that doesn't abide by the European Convention on Human Rights, their European Bill of Rights, then what happens is that in order to get into the trade club, and this is the way it's gone in the world today. Capitalism is the economic model. That's it. And I don't think that's ever going to turn back. And I spent a lot of time in Russia, and I spent time in the Soviet Union. And I was there during 6 months when they were writing the new Russian constitution, watching all the capitalists take over. And I personally am a capitalist. I'll tell you the truth. Okay? I happen to think that you can have a rights-based system within capitalism. But we have capitalism. And the reason why this is responsive to your question is because there's a quid pro quo. So the thing about capitalism is you need to have trade and you need to have economic activity in order to be able to have income. And so in Europe, with the Council of Europe, and I don't know if any of you have studied present European economics or that sort of thing, but to get into the Council of Europe, which is like a trade club, right? So it's their capitalist trade club, that you have to agree that the European Convention on Human Rights, this document will apply in your domestic law. This is answering your question, honest. So what happens is, when the European Court hands down a decision, there is no military to enforce it. If the decision's against the government of Portugal and they say, we're not going to follow this, then they get kicked out of the Council of Europe. Right? So that there's no military enforcement. What there is there's trade enforcement. And the result has been, miraculously, this beautiful courthouse on the other side of this bridge, almost every decision, and I say almost because there have been a few where they haven't, but almost every decision of this court that's ever been decided has been enforced. It's been remarkable. I was in on talks when Romania, they were trying to redo the Romanian judiciary and they were going to pour hundreds of millions of dollars into redoing it domestically. And they said, no, just have them be part of the Council of Europe, have the European Convention apply in their domestic law. All those Romanian judges will have to follow the European Convention, this document here, and that'll bring them into the whole European community. And it was remarkable. The guy, René Casson, who was from France, and he worked with Eleanor Roosevelt on the Universal Declaration, and then he worked on this European Convention as the next step to enforcement. When he won the Nobel Peace Prize for his work, he stood up there in front of the Nobel Committee and he just said, first two words, he just said, it works. And it does, it works. It works in part because on the enforcement side, they just can't afford to be economic outcasts, which is why Brexit is really a dangerous thing, is because it breaks up this whole nucleus. And so it's, the answer is really to have economic enforcement rather than military.
No, that seems like it would only work if the country that needed the assistance or needed to enforce it had some sort of economic value. If it wasn't a third world economy somewhere.
Yeah.
What good reference to throw out there if the government's
Yeah.
not willing or able to step into the enforcement of what's coming through genocide or something.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's no doubt, because what you're referring to is it also depends upon a good court, efficient, functioning court system too, right? And no, you got it right. The pretty cool, yeah. All right.
To get the end deal done is not going to be too efficient when people's lives can be lost. And they're having to trade a resource or try to step up to basically handle it themselves. Seems like it might end up being too long to actually get it.
Yeah.
When we're talking human rights, if there's,
Yeah.
Lives being lost, people being taken.
Yeah. Yeah, and so he's raising a good point, and this is one of the difficulties of this whole process of implementation is how do you have courts that are strong enough that they can actually issue decisions and have them enforced. And what all of this does actually is it makes it a shift in emphasis so that people start thinking, okay, if we're going to have rights and develop in all these different countries, what do we need to do with our aid? Like right now, very little aid is going to building judiciaries in other countries, right? It's something that's just overlooked. And I think it's a big mistake. So in answer to your question, you have to strengthen the judiciaries in addition. But there are a lot of countries out there that have those judiciaries. They just need to have a better system to function within, whether it's Lithuania or Romania or many of the others as examples, right? Yeah.
I have a comment, but I think that might actually stir the question to a different
Okay.
direction. I'm usually a pessimist, and I'm also an 18th century literature person. So, I teach about Enlightenment universal ideas, and usually I have a problem with that, right? But then with this case, I think it's particularly moving and inspiring because of the fact that, say, for example, if we actually make a pledge for the idea of universal human rights, then you would actually be looking at yourself as somebody who has rights. You'll look at your fellow human beings as people who are human beings, and even if you don't know the content of the rights, right, you know that some of the rights come very naturally to you, right? And then therefore, it will actually avoid us to actually see the Iraqis or people in Syria as, just objects, right? Instead, you will see them as people with rights. And they have due process rights and all various different kind of rights that allow us to respect each other, right? For the promotion of peaceful solutions, one. The second one will be the fact that when we are doing that and when we are building good laws, then we are enabling the people themselves to fight for their own rights, right? If they want. Without a law, you wouldn't even, the people whose human rights will be abused in different areas of the world, they don't even have anything to actually base their grievance on, right? So it's only when we all agree to the law, then the law has power. And it's when everybody actually is able to recognize that you are a human being with rights, then there is a possibility of fighting for those rights. And I will guarantee you, those people who have their human rights abused, they would want to see justice for them, right? So we don't necessarily need to make sure that it's enforced. I mean, in a way, we have to trust that justice comes from below, right? And then they will find a way to have it enforced. And what we actually have done will be that we have actually made a universal commitment to say we want to actually make sure that we watch each other, to make sure that we all respect other people's rights and we would help, reinforce each other's rights, right? And I think that's an important part of the fact that it's actually an active process rather than a fixed document.
Well, thank you very much. I'll tell you, just let me follow up on this, and then I'll get to these questions, right? Because it's a really important point. I appreciate you making it because it's harder for me because I don't want you to feel like I'm beating you up. But I think the point that I got that's so important is that, there's a step that you can take. And it is, in this process, it is thinking about, like on this pledge, it's thinking about, okay, would I pledge to support the idea? Like, let me ask, is there anyone here who so far, based on what you've heard, feels like you would be willing to sign this pledge to support the idea? Okay. I really ask that all of you go to the website and do that. And I promise you, every single one of you that do that, you will get a letter back. Not of appreciation saying, hey, thanks for joining us. Because what she says is right. It's a personal step. And so then, and you're not going to get bombarded with daily emails or anything, right? Promise you. But it is a step that you take with others. And I think that's why, and that they got it right. When we were 2048, we didn't have this idea of conveying what you're talking about, of getting everyone to feel like they're in something together. And that's why they actually brought in a brander called a namer who came in and he looked at everything that we did and he said, look, you're trying to unite people. You should be unite for rights. So thanks. It's a great point. Thank you all. I hope that you do that. And now let me get to these questions because I saw you had one. Yeah.
So there's by law, there's an international customary law that prohibits extrajudicial killing and torture. And then there's a global treaty, the UN International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, which requires fair hearings. Yet, there's been abuses of those laws. So
Yeah.
how is human rights law prohibited?
He's making a great point, and I don't know if you all heard it, But what he's saying is, okay, there's this existing convention on civil and political rights, for example, and there are a number of these conventions, and but they're not law. Okay, I've been there in Geneva every year, at least once or twice a year. They're at the United Nations, listening, going to these meetings, and helping to push forward these various conventions. And I believe in them, but they're not law. They're not enforceable. Your question, your point is it's a combination question point. It's a good one. They just aren't enforceable, and that's why this step is so important, right? That's why there are a lot of people in Geneva too that feel like this is something that needs to be done in order to take these various documents that you're talking about and build them into one document and that actually works. And you would enforce it through courts. So you would actually have in the regional courts. That's what makes this document so valuable, is that then they even say in the preamble, these are the first steps after the Universal Declaration. So you all get that, right? The next steps are to move to the point where the documents actually are enforceable in court. You get to stand in front of a judge and ask her for a decision. Okay, I saw another, yeah, go ahead.
If it ever got to that point where we're taking these human rights cases to court, would you see there being a problem of whoever has the most money, whether it's a company that's not obeying someone's human rights, coming out on top of the case? How would that be solved?
Yeah, and so he's asking a great question. Even if you have a court system, then how do you stop from the political influences that cause the court to just negate rights? And there's no answer, because humans do that. But I also have seen, there was a federal judge in Hawaii who I knew named Judge Fong. Great judge, appointed by Reagan. And he used to call it putting on his black muumuu. Anybody here from Hawaii? So, muumuu is like a long outfit. And he put on his black muumuu. But the point is that when he put on that, he took it so seriously. There's no way that anybody was going to buy Judge Fong. I don't think they could. And I know a lot of federal judges. I have 2 friends that have been appointed that are sitting there in San Francisco in the federal court. There's no way you're going to buy them. So, and I think that that's not just about them, it's about you too. Do I think we all have weaknesses in our characters? Yeah, I do. I also think that in the right circumstance, with judicial independence and protections for that person making that decision, that there's no better place for our rights to be than in the hands of those judges. But it's never perfect, you're right. Yeah. Yeah.
So from what I understand, the purpose of the project Unite for Rights is to come up with a global Bill of Rights. But how is that different to the already existing UN International Human Rights document?
What it is it's a combination of them. Like, for instance, there are certain rights in this global Bill of Rights that through all the input of others that have been added, like on the environment is a good example. It's not in the Universal Declaration. Okay.
So why not try to amend the UN Bill of Rights?
Because that's what the covenants and these other documents have done. They've been amendments. And that process, and as much as I have participated in it and I believe that it's made progress to get to this point, the reason why your pledges are important and why because without a movement, the governments aren't going to do it on their own. I was just there in Geneva. I told you I was at the opening for the Human Rights Council. It's a big round room. They have countries they have 47 countries there, delegations from all of them, and I'm sitting there. And our president of our Geneva office was speaking right after the president of the council that day. So it's packed. And I'm looking around this room after all these years, and I'm thinking about just this. And the truth, what stuck in my mind, anybody ever hear that quote from Eisenhower? our military general, who said, one of these days, the people, it was this. People want peace so badly that one of these days governments are going to get out of the way and let them have it. Has anyone ever heard that? People want peace so badly, talking about the world, that one of these days governments are going to get out of the way and let them have it. And when I sit there and I watch all these countries, including the United States, we vote consistently against so many things that we used to stand for. A right to education, we vote against it every time. Right to health care, the big board, the lights go up. Health care is human right. Green, 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 you know. Red. And it's us. So these things, I think that it's good to go through and to have the UN and have the government, but it's going to take more than that. It's going to take movements, and that's why the point that was made over here by her that, okay, it can go viral. You know, the only way that out of this situation for your generation, I think, whether it's climate change or, which I'm going to go see McKibben after this, but whether it's climate change or human rights, I think the only way out for you all is if there's movements. That's why when I show you Doris on, and I show you these other things, and I talk to you about determination, that's what I want to leave you with most of all. And I appreciate being able to come here tonight, but I want to leave you with that resolve. And one, I hope you do the pledge thing and contribute your thoughts, but that beyond that, just carry your resolve and do whatever you can to pressure those governments to create the world that you want. And I thank you all very much for being here tonight.